my first interview this week, and it was interesting, I'll say that. Stick around and I'll be going over a few of the questions they asked me during my interview. I'm also going to go over a front-end meta challenge, what I've been learning on the Odin projects, and two of the projects that I've completed as part of the curriculum. This is a series of what I am trying to do to become a web developer. My name is Craig, and this is week 24. Let's dive in and see how much time I've spent on web development this week. Total time for the week is 25 hours. Really good time, up about 45 minutes from the previous week. That's split up as 5 hours 25 for tutorials, 13 hours 30 for projects, and a total of 6 hours and 5 minutes for career. A lot of time spent on career this week, just due to the fact that I had an interview, furiously prepping for that. This week, I've mainly been going over the Odin project and a little bit of my MERN course. I'll be honest, my head kind of hurts from the Odin project. There was just so much to take in and so much to practice. Really good though, really enjoying it. First up, I revisited constructors and prototypes from the previous week, and I finished the library project which implemented them. I'll be showing that on the computer later. I had some feedback on my library project, not on the project itself, but just how I've structured my folders, and I was advised to remove all my projects from my main repo and put them in the individual ones. That took a little bit of time to figure out, but eventually I stumbled upon git filter repo, subdirectory filter. Really good command, check that one out. After completing the library, I moved on to learn about factory functions and also the module pattern. These seem really interesting, really cool methods where you can keep some of your methods and variables private so you don't clutter up the global namespace. I will admit I did struggle a little bit implementing them in the Tic Tac Toe project, but I'll be discussing that later on. In terms of the MERN course, I'll be honest, I struggled with concentration that day. I just felt like I really didn't want to do any web development, but I sat down, made sure I did a few hours of the MERN course, and it was interesting. I learned how to read from the database and display it on the website through React. So that was very useful. Let's dive over to the computer and see what I have been building. First up, I want to go through the front-end meta challenge. It was a brand new challenge that was added. It's a junior one because it uses JavaScript and an API. Very simple, it's just kind of a box with a advice generator quote. And it wasn't too difficult to code up really. The HTML was fairly straightforward and the JavaScript was also quite nice to do. I think I used about 25 lines of JavaScript. It's okay. I think I could improve it. So if I click the button too fast, it doesn't generate the quote. I think that's just, I need some kind of handler there for that. I would say one possible issue as well is this attribution part at the bottom. I've just got that styled as bottom 0, and on very small screens you can tell, it's not great there. Yeah, really good challenge. Nice to use an API and just practice a bit more JavaScript. Some of these advice quotes though are just beyond me. Secondly, we've got the Odin project, and first I'll dive into the library. So this uses constructors and prototype methods. I had a lot of fun with this. I thought the style looked really nice. I wanted to do something a little bit interesting, so I made it look like a book. Well, I think it looks like a book. Let me know if you do not believe it looks like a book. There are a few issues though, so I'll add a random book. I think I've got one on my desk here. So there's an issue. I say no yet. Great English there, Craig. So it should be not yet. I also don't like how it just says false, or if I toggle this, it will go true. I do like how it updates the stats on the first page. There's also the delete icon that works quite nicely. This does overflow, so it's overflow auto, I believe. So when there's a lot of books, it will scroll down. However, this really doesn't work on mobile or tablet or anything smaller than my desktop really. So as you can see, it just looks really naff on tablets and mobiles. That's why I really want to redesign the UI. I'll probably just go down the route of making a card per book, just so then I can use display grid with auto fit. But it was a fun project. I really enjoyed it. It would also be quite nice to add a local storage or something. Finally, the Tic Tac Toe project. As I mentioned, I've got this on the bot branch right now. Where to begin with this one? So initially, I don't think I started off quite right, I'll be honest. I had a factory function for making the 2 players. I think that's perfectly fine. I then had one module basically containing all the methods and logic, which really wasn't the point of the project. You were supposed to split it out and keep things organized. So that wasn't a good start. I then sort of broke it trying to add a computer playing. By this point, I hadn't branched it either. So I then did branch it after I broke it. Probably not the best idea. I refactored the code slightly, so I've got a few different modules now to keep things organized. And I do actually have a very basic computer working. So if you leave player 2 blank, it will play as a bot. I probably need to put some text in here describing that. But I'm quite happy with the UI. Possibly change the size of the X's and the O's. But as you saw, I click for the player and the bot will put in at the next available space. So really simple computer, but it does work. There is an issue which I've just added to my GitHub, basically saying on draw the winner is undefined. So if I win as player 1, it will say the name of the winner. But if it's a draw, that is undefined. And I really like this logic here where you can rematch with the same players or you can start an entirely new game. So what I'm really struggling with here is the minimax theorem of, having the computer place its marker in the optimal position. I understand the logic of the theorem. It does make sense. I could talk about it. I just can't implement it, and it's doing my head in. I'll probably be spending more than a few hours next week working on this. So the interview, I don't think it went very well, and I'm really kicking myself because of it. The company seemed great. They had a really good training program, and the people seemed really nice. So I'm very disappointed in myself with how poorly I performed. I was told on Monday that the interview was going to be Thursday, so I was quickly prepping throughout the week. It was only a half-hour interview, and for some reason I thought it would be more behavioural than technical. I was very wrong. It was very technical, and I think I fumbled through most of the answers. There was 5 main questions that they asked me on the technical side of things. First up was discussing a project on my CV. So the question was just running through one of your projects from initial idea to build. How do you go about it? I felt like I answered that one fairly reasonable, talked about Figma, wireframing, and just building it up piece by piece. Second question was to explain React, what it is, why it's good, how you'd use it kind of thing. Again, this one was okay. Probably fumbled through it a little bit. I talked mainly about components, how it's a JS framework, and states and props. Why it's good is just the reusable components. You build the header once and that's it. The third question was to do with Node and implementing it with SQL. And I was pretty honest with this and said I haven't had enough experience with Node to really go into this answer. In a similar question, I'd say this was question number 4, was why would you use SQL on a server rather than doing something client side? I basically just mentioned for security reason. A very brief answer because again I couldn't go into it that much. And then the 5th major question that they asked me, that was to do with HTML5 canvas elements. I said I've had a little bit of experience because one of my projects used it, and again fumbled this a little bit talked about how you could dynamically draw on the canvas using JavaScript. The interaction, I didn't really talk too much about how you interact with the states because that was something I did struggle with when I built my project. Those were the 5 questions, and I definitely need to practice them a lot more. And that is everything for week 24. I am happy with what I have achieved this week in terms of learning, progressing with the Odin project, but I am just very disappointed with my performance in the interview. Unfortunately, due to the interview, I wasn't able to work on the React app from last week, nor the calendar website I was working on. So hopefully those will be 2 things I can work on next week. But again, my focus is very much on the Odin project. I am really enjoying it, and I can't sing its praises enough. It is challenging, but in an incremental way, so you are pushed. But the community is great, and you can ask questions there. Links to resources will be down below, so make sure you go check them out. And as always, I would greatly appreciate your thoughts and advice. If you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you hit that like button, and if you want to see more, then please subscribe. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll catch you later.